do better work. Here's the thing. I see some of the guys who are or what you would consider your contemporaries, or guys, great directors who you love, and you meet them, and you're like, oh, fuck, really? Did you have to say that? Are you so closed off from the world, behind the success and the money? Do you ever get out? Do you ever hang out anymore? And I've made a concerted effort, honest to God, and it's not bullshit, over all these years not to be that guy. Not to. That's why I live in San Francisco and in New York some of the time. I don't want to be in Hollywood.
You're a regular Joe.
No, but you know what? Here's the weird thing. You're a regular Joe who makes movies, and I get it.
I know.
I get that it.
I'm just breaking your balls.
You are breaking my balls because
you
can't be a regular
Joe. Because the people listening
are going to be saying,
I don't think they can believe that you're this down to earth and a regular guy, like a guy that you break balls with. I think it's really neat for people to know, like the guy that directed Harry Potter and wrote fucking Goonies and Gremlins and other movies that begin with the letter G.
Right.
I was going for alliteration.
Godfather, good. No.
Yeah, but I wasted it on Goodfellas. Yeah. Like, you really are, like, I was saying to Matt Cohen on the walk over, if someone said, like, what's Columbus's style, you just go. Like, you just do it. There's no heaviness. I've never heard you shout.
Right.
I guess that's what ADs are for.
But it's embarrassing. I've seen directors on movies I've produced shout and scream, and it's like with a kid. If you do it 2 or 3 times, they're just going to, it becomes white noise. They don't give a shit. I mean, so if I'm shouting on the set, I'm enough of an egomaniac to know I'm going to look like an idiot. I don't want to look like an idiot shouting and crying. It's almost like if I'm sitting in a corner. I heard about a director.
Cried?
No, I heard about a director once in a movie that somebody was producing who was so overwhelmed the second day he was sitting in a corner eating bowls of jalapeno peppers, staring at the wall. And I thought, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be able to. It's not that intimidating.
I'll drop it, but can you give us any clues?
I can't give you any clues
no problem.
Yeah,
no problem.
His career was destroyed at that moment, and I don't think it's ever recovered.
That's fantastic. So. You, when you did Home Alone, when you meet like a young kid, how many kids audition for that part before you?
John Hughes put Macaulay Culkin. John Hughes was responsible for the way I like to work, which is a couple of scripted takes, and then improvise as much as possible. And Macaulay and John Candy had this great scene improvising in Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
And that John was like, I kind of wrote this. John Hughes was like, I kind of wrote this for Macaulay, but you can see as many people as you want. So I met Macaulay first, and I saw like 400 other kids, and he was the best. So we went with him. But his situation was he just had that magic on camera, but he still needed... I mean, if you look at some of these movies that I've done with younger kids, like Mac and the early first Harry Potter movie, those kids were capable of doing 1 or 2 lines, and then they'd be staring into the lens. Or
I've seen it on this show. It's just their age. They're so young.
So we shoot with 3 or 4 cameras. It's like shooting a documentary. So it's a matter of me just sitting there beside the camera and repeating and continuously giving them line readings, which I would never do with other actors, but you have to do with kids.
You can always do it with me.
I should do it with you.
I wish you would. I wish you could actually say my lines for me.
I do too. I love it's been fun watching you work because you work like this is the way I used to work with Robin and John Candy. Same way. And it's no, but it's true. I mean, Robin,
life rate.
I did when I did Only the Lonely with John, which is again another film that's dear to my heart because we brought Maureen O'Hara. I don't know if any of your listeners know who Maureen O'Hara is.
They know every reference you got.
Quiet Man, is one of my favorite films of all time. So we brought Maureen out of retirement after so many years to do this movie with John Candy.
John was probably madly in love with her.
Well, she was he played an Irish bachelor who lived at home with his mother still and couldn't commit. And it was perfect for him. But the way I worked with him was 1 or 2 scripted takes, and then things get off the rails until it really gets off the rails and it's not usable. When we did Doubtfire, Robin was the same way. Robin, we would do 2 or 3 scripted takes, and then he'd say, let me play. And so there's 4 different versions of that movie. There's the PG version, the PG-13 that came out. There's the R version, the NC-17 version, because he just went as far as he possibly could.
Did you know when you were doing Mrs. Doubtfire that he was going to look alarmingly like Glenn Close?
No. But Albert Nobbs, and I'm not saying anything about Albert Nobbs. I'm not getting Robin in trouble. But he doesn't
you lost an Oscar this year.
I lost an Oscar. My first time I'm nominated, and I lost, yeah. I mean, I've been waiting my whole life to, as regular as a guy as I am, I'd still like to get an Oscar.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You produced The Help.
Yeah.
What's your next wish? Jesus.
It's not, the wish is not, the wish was going. So going to the Oscars, and I don't know how.
No, I mean as far as like the projects you sync up with are like these giant monster projects.
here's the thing: is that I just want to. The
Like,
Oscars got me focused.
I guess what's the difference between a guy like you and a guy like, say, an Ed Burns, who just seems to be in this? I shoot in New York for $500,000. To him, it's a great lifestyle, but to you, it would be like, Jesus, what am I doing?
Well, it depends on what makes you want to make movies. When I got into movies, when I got inspired to make movies, it was movies like Dog Day Afternoon, Serpico, The Godfather. All
Vietnam
movies,
veterans, killing don't mean nothing to us.
right? And it doesn't exactly. My daughter was dying to hear your Pacino.
What's under the desk? What is that, a squirrel? When did Pacino's voice go from, okay, NEW, we play all the hits? All of a sudden, Chris, he gets real tired. I'm so tired, Chris. Sorry.
That's all right. Those
are the kind of movies you want to make.
Those are the kind of movies I wanted to make, and I never made them.
Lumet movies.
No, but I never met. No, regardless of that, classic, great movies with amazing stories, very emotional. And I started on a trek of Gremlins and Goonies, so I never thought that I'd be the kind of writer who would be writing big fantasy pictures.
You've written great movies.
But I know, but it's weird.
I didn't know you wrote Gremlins till this nerd told me.
But that's the weird thing. And so then you move into...
Excuse me.
Then you move into Home Alone, because I'd done this horrible movie called Heartbreak Hotel about a kid who kidnaps Elvis Presley. And it's like, it's a bad movie. I knew it was bad. I've done a couple of those movies where you know when you're making them, you're completely fucked, and there's no way out. There's absolutely no way to turn back because you're in the middle of it.
What's fascinating about that is there was a time where you were pitching that movie and you sold everyone on how great this was going to be.
Right. They read the script, and the script was like wish fulfillment. This kid kidnaps Elvis Presley in 1972 and brings him back to his small hometown. It seems like it would be it's terrible. It just doesn't work. David Keith. And he did a good job.
He's crazy.
But under those circumstances,
he's so crazy.
He's David gave it his all as Elvis. I got to admit, but it's a difficult.
I think you should have went with Keith David.
Keith David would have been much more interesting.
The black guy from Platoon. Hey man, I'm all shook up.
But I don't think. Look, here's the bottom line. After that movie, I thought I was over.
Really?
I thought my career was over. That movie was playing on double bills the Wednesday after it opened on Saturday. It couldn't make it sense. There are movies today that are not as big of a bomb as Heartbreak Hotel was a cheap movie, but nobody went to see it. Anyway, I thought I was not going to work again. Hughes sent me the script for Home Alone, and I said, okay, I'd love to do, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'd like to do that movie. Comedy was great. And as a result, suddenly I got pegged as a comedy guy. So I was doing comedies for a while. It's really weird how it, and then Potter comes along, and suddenly now I'm back to directing big-budget, gigantic fantasy films. So back to what you said, The Help has now focused me in a way not to do gigantic movies, but movies that are actually about something with great stories that you don't have to spend a lot of money making. I mean, if we took this crew and we went out and made a movie for 40 days or 30 days, we could do a great movie for $10 million, and that's exciting to me. I love the pace at which we're working.
What was the wig budget on The Help?
You keep going on about these fucking wigs.
Second time. It's only the second time I said
wigs.
It must have really stuck in your craw.
Here's the funny thing.
Because if you think I keep going on, I said it day one. I met you, and I said, nice to meet you. What was the wig budget on The Help?
And then you mentioned it again, the wigs. This is the third time.
Oh, really?
Doesn't matter.
I won't disagree with you.
So that I'm obviously the psychopath because I know it was the third time, but it doesn't matter because the
you think about it when you're running on that treadmill at the Ritz-Carlton, just running, like, fuck, what was the wig budget on The Help?
Oh, Jesus. The weird thing about The Help is when we looked at all the tests and all the wigs, we matched them to actual. No, this is funny.
I just can't believe we're having this conversation because of my stupid mouth.
I know. I have to tell you,
because
they looked insane. They looked like. At first, they looked like Saturday Night Live skits, and we had
Fred Garvin.
Yeah, right. We had to tone them down.
Prostitute as The Help.
So we toned it way down.
That was Allison Janney walked on set as Fred Garvin, male prostitute.
Alice,
how great is she, man?
That was as a producer on that movie, you sit back and you watch. It's like watching a great theater every day. You're watching Viola Davis, Allison Janney, Cicely Tyson. It's like the greatest.
I didn't even know Cicely Tyson was in it.
The greatest actresses, Sissy Spacek. Just keep going. Every day somebody new was coming on who was hitting it out of the park. And it's all because of Viola Davis. She's such a phenomenal actress that...
She's the real deal.
She's the real deal. She should have got the Academy Award. Now she's the one who was robbed, yeah.
More than Clooney?
Clooney was robbed, too.
That shit was. I just saw The Descendants. It was bananas.
It's an amazing movie, and
So
he's great in it.
Yeah, so much acting with no dialogue at all, without sound.
Oh,
When his daughter finds out the news, and the rack focus to him watching his daughter get the news.
oh, it's awesome.
I started crying.
It's a.
He was
brilliant
crying
film.
like a pussy. When you did Home Alone, I bet Pesci was a real treat and a nice, gentle guy and really fun around the kids to work with. A guy that with a real sense of, a real homebody.
I can't do a great Joe Pesci, but when I first gave him the script, he was like, "Do you know this is how I do the script? I say fuck every other word." I said, "So what do you?"
I don't
mean
know if you
every-"
know what I do.
I say fuck. Yeah.
I say fuck after every fucking sentence here.
Yeah, exactly. And he says it.
The fuck is Columbus surprised I do Pesci now?
So he does that, and then he removes the fucks. That's how he had to learn. That's how he had to learn it. And he was.
But his dialogue in the show was like, "Oh no!" He was Colonel Clink for fucking 6.
No, he was like,
he didn't have any like speeches.
he had already done Goodfellas, right? So I'm working with a guy who's done Goodfellas, one of my favorite movies, and he comes in, and this is, he's doing Home Alone, he's doing slapstick. So it was an odd thing for him, and it was probably a little odd that the fact that this kid was the star. So we would always have to shoot the kid first, so his coverage would come much later.
What do you mean he's got to go to school? School how?
Yeah, exactly.
The fuck school? Are you a fucking actor or a student here?
It was times he would get frustrated, and but he was game for it.
Please tell me at least once he said something and swore at Macaulay Culkin.
He didn't swear at Macaulay
Fucking
Culkin.
say it, you fucking prick. We all want to go to lunch.
He didn't do it, but I wish I had that story.
There's a lot of fucking vans outside waiting to take everybody to lunch, you fucking blonde prick, you.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But he was, he was game for it. He did as a film geek, he did the entire speech from Goodfellas. Do you think I'm funny speech? He did the entire thing for me 2 or 3 times.
Really?
When I was getting tired or something, I said, "Joe, will you do that?" He would just do it. It was
Are you
awesome.
serious?
I swear to God.
Is Goodfellas... It's almost impossible to say this, and foolish it sounds to say it out loud, but it is actually still and will always be no matter what happens in life, Goodfellas will be underrated. Would you agree?
It's getting more respect. I mean, it's always gotten a lot of respect.
I mean, even for you, if you and I put it in right now, we would just sit here with our fucking mouths open.
right,
And we've seen it 100 times.
right.
It's really, I used to always say Raging Bull was like my knee-jerk best movie of all time. Best
Right.
Cinematically, nothing could ever top that.
Right.
I mean, Sorcerer's Stone, it had, it's in the conversation.
But I felt that way
we're all
about
dying.
Raging Bull.
We're all dying
Yeah.
on this set.
No, I felt that way about Raging Bull. I felt that it was his best movie until I watched Goodfellas again, until I watched Taxi Driver again. I mean, those movies hold up.
Scorsese's best movie.
What's that? Goodfellas?
I just want people, not Pesci's best movie, Scorsese's best movie.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Pesci's best movie is Raging Bull. He's just never been better.
Do you think he had sex with De Niro's wife in Raging Bull?
I know we had this conversation. I don't, but you did.
Don't show the listeners behind the curtain, Chris.
Well, the behind the curtain is good because they'll get to know a little bit about our relationship in 10 days.
It's a good one.
It's good. It's fun.
You're
I want to work
delightful.
with you a lot.
Just I want that in the opening credits of the podcast.
But for me, it's
Between Macho Man Randy Savage and Tracy Morgan. You should hear, in the beginning of the podcast, we have a run of just nonsensical.
Right.
How the fuck you going to be great if you don't study greatness? Oh, yeah. I want to work with you a lot.
I can make it there. That's awesome.
Yeah, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
But no. So the bottom line is to work with a guy like Pesci, or to get a chance to work. I almost had a chance to work with De Niro last summer, but the project fell through. And you see a guy like Pacino, I wonder, can you get those guys back to doing some of the
Pacino,
stuff?
I know Al personally.
Right.
And he's a guy, that's all he does is walks around the house obsessing over getting to the bottom of everything.
Right.
Every word. So that's like a guy, when he asks for more and more and more takes, you actually get, from being on the set of Simone, I saw firsthand, I was stunned at how seriously he took it. He knows, he's well aware of this is something that can be molded.
Right.
Whereas it seems like the other guys seem to be a series of ticks that they've just strung together throughout the years at this point.
Right.
Well,
Well, it's interesting.
Little bit.
Maybe, but I think some of the guys continue to grow. I mean, Eastwood. Look at Eastwood. I mean, Eastwood continues to be interesting on screen.
But don't you think a lot of that, and I'm being completely serious, he started so poorly.
Right.
He was never, like, back in the day when you watched a Clint Eastwood movie, they were like bullshit movies.
Here's the thing, is that I always look at, because people say, when are you going to stop directing? And I'm like, not until I drop dead on the set. I mean, I really want to keep going, and it's Clint Eastwood who's my inspiration. Because I said, I started out making some slapsticky, silly movies. He started out with, in a boxing match with a chimp. So he's gotten to a point where
He started out, they had to dub it from Italian.
Yeah.